Yeah.
Yeah. So, number one then for me is Batman Arkham Origins. Actually playing on PC. We talked earlier about how cheap Lego Marvel was, and I managed to pick it up on day of release for £18 on PC, which is insane. But moving on from that, it's Batman Arkham Origins. So, obviously, this is the third game in the Arkham series after Arkham Asylum and Arkham City from Rocksteady. Arkham Asylum came along with a lot of hype and a lot of publicity, but I think because so many people have been burned by Batman for so many years in video games anyway, that nobody, certainly in people that I was speaking to, was hugely excited by it. And then the game came out and hit and was, for all intents and purposes, a masterpiece. I have some issues with what happens towards the end of the game with all the Titan stuff. But yeah, it's basically an incredible piece of work. City came out, and that was my game of the year for 2011, was it? An amazing, amazing game. So when they announced Origins was going to be made by a different studio, and it was coming basically right at the end of this generation, when I heard it wasn't Rocksteady, I was like, okay, but I'm still interested. I'm still intrigued. I believe that this studio, Warner Bros. Montreal, I'm sure they can put together a game based on the work of Rocksteady. And in truth, in my opinion, they have. I've heard Arkham Origins described as like a cover version of a song you really like, a good cover version of a song you really like. And I think that's a kind of a nice, succinct way of putting it. It does everything that Arkham City does a little bit worse, but that's not to say it's a lot worse. It's not, for me, a 3.5 out of 10 like the Destructoid review. It's definitely not that. To give it a bit of brief backstory, obviously your Batman, this is Batman Year 2 they call it, and it's Christmas Eve, and there's a contract put out on him where the villain Black Mask has, I think, offered to pay $50 million to 8 assassins to try and kill Batman on Christmas Eve. I don't think it's a spoiler to say, a bit later on it turns out that the Joker's involved, and the game goes on to be another Batman and Joker story, which is more appealing to me than this other kind of rogues gallery of people I didn't really know who most of them were. And it's a decent-sized piece of open world to move around in. A lot of it is recycled from Arkham City geometrically, and then it adds a chunk more on. And then you've got the familiar kind of indoor sections, which were made up almost all of Asylum and kind of the levels, as it were, in City. And yeah, I mean, the city's not as good as Arkham City. The indoor bits aren't as good as Arkham City. The combat isn't quite as good as Arkham City. It's a little bit off. But at no point am I going, fucking hell, they fucked this up. At no point am I ever not enjoying myself. I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the combat. I know that there are issues where sometimes the counter button doesn't work, but it's not like the counter button never works and I can't play it. It's frustrating because I know what combos I can get on City and Asylum, and they're not quite working here. I'm going into the interior levels, and in City and more so Asylum, they are complex structures that require a certain amount of backtracking at times, puzzle solving. Here they're more like linear A to B stuff, but again, it's not killing me. None of this is killing me. I don't object to this game existing. I've been enjoying my time with it. I genuinely am. I don't know. What do you think? I've still got more to say, but I'm interested in what you think.
I think very similar to you, although a little bit less of it, just because I've had quite a few instances where I've just been mad with frustration.
Okay.
I mean, I think by and large what you said is correct. The problem is that Arkham City was so vast and so polished. I mean, it was in comparison with you'd compare it to something by Rockstar.
Yeah.
It was that every part of that city, every part of that game, even the tiny little side missions were amazing and polished and everything. So it's going to suffer in comparison. And the other thing about it is that it was so far away from being a cyclical release. So the fact that they felt the need to 2 years later bring out another sequel, you can tell. But by and large, I wasn't minding it. I was really quite enjoying it because it's just, they did hit upon a brilliant formula. So playing it for the first few hours, I thought it was fine. But my problems with the combat became quite fundamental. I mean, like you said, the counter command it just doesn't work. How frustrating is that when it makes you realise how incredible the Rocksteady games were, because the amount of times that's happened to me now, where you can die and have to restart just because the fucking button just doesn't work. That's mental. And that's happened to me. That happened to me during a couple of boss battles, and it happened to me on some bit. Just I don't know what excuse. I don't. The fundamental part of the game doesn't work properly.
Yeah.
It's as if everything looks the same. That little animation, the little sort of lightning bolts, that's all still there, but it seems like the window for countering is slimmer, and also you can preemptively press counter, so you can just hammer counter if you've got someone, and it'll work, which never worked in the other games. It's dumbed down, and it doesn't entirely work. That's just frustrated the absolute hell out of me.
Yeah, I get the impression on that one. You put it perfectly, and this is something I've written in my notes. Almost everything about the game just shows how good the Rocksteady games actually are, because they hit upon it first time with that free-flow combat and everything else in terms of Arkham Asylum. You can kind of take it for granted a little bit, but when you try and play the combat here, and I haven't been in situations where it's caused me to die, so that's why I said it's not bothering me that much. It's just a little bit annoying for me because it's fucking up my combo, but it's not. I'm still beating everybody up, and I've still got all my life basically. But yeah, I think they might have been in a situation where they got all this code. Listen, I don't know how these things actually work, but in my mind, this is how I'm going to describe it. They got all the code just shoved on their desk. Here's how the Batman game works. Good luck, try and do this. And they opened up the thing, and they opened up, they pulled it out and put it on their computer, and I'm like, oh fuck, how the fuck are we going to do this? These guys are geniuses. I don't even understand. And they have tried their absolute damnedest in a short amount of time to recreate it as best they can, but it does creak. It definitely creaks, and that goes to everything. The Predator stuff isn't quite as good. The AI isn't quite as good. The options aren't as much. The flying around the city doesn't feel as good. I'm having a lot of trouble with my frame rate on PC. The game looks gorgeous, but I don't need a game that runs flawlessly at 60 frames a second indoors. Then when you go outside, drops to 20 frames a second. I don't need that in my life, and I'm hearing that that's a similar issue on the console version, certainly on PS3 version. That kind of stuff sucks, and it's not that this game existing diminishes the other two games, but the fact that it's inferior is a shame, because those games were so special, and it felt like at the end of City, that when this game didn't exist in the minds of anybody, you just assumed it was going to be Rocksteady again doing the next one, that this could be like one of the truly great trilogies, and the Rocksteady trilogy will still be that, I'm sure, but now the Arkham trilogy isn't that. But having said that, I've said all along, I am enjoying my time with Batman Arkham Origins. Just, I don't know, it's difficult to know what I'd end up in if I had to put a score to it.
Yeah. I don't know either. I mean, it has, like I said, wound me up quite a bit, but it is still really entertaining. Like I said, the formula is entertaining, even when it's really irritating. It doesn't look as good in the sense that, although it was essentially the same world in Arkham City, it was actually quite colourful. So many of these environments are really murky. I mean, there are spikes, like that great bit where I think Joker takes over like a ballroom or something and turns it into like a theme park. That looks amazing. But there's so much. I'm just like, why does this look so dull? I mean, even when it was underground, and even the sewers in the Rocksteady games looked kind of sort of sparky, and they looked a little bit. The amount of times I've found myself walking through really, really dull and mundane. But then again, another problem is that they still haven't solved the problem of having detective mode on all the time.
I forcibly turn it off, but pretty much all the time. But I know a lot of people don't.
Especially if you're looking for. I mean, another thing, there were collectibles in Arkham City. There were balloons to pop and stuff like that. But by and large, like the Riddler trophies and stuff, that was just like a polite. There's more game over here if you want it. Yeah. Which is so much more. I mean, collectibles are. They upset me quite a bit, because it's just a really cheap way to prolong the life of a game and exploit people who might be completists. So to come into this and find out that it's like document number 1 of 10, and then document number 1. Just fucking things to find, to walk over. That really was really disappointing. I mean, you said it looks really good on PC. On 360, the cutscenes are really scrappy. The dialogue rarely syncs, and the faces have no textures on them, so they look kind of. The cutscenes on 360 do not look good in the slightest. I mean, I think the main problem with it is that it's come out in the same breathing space as Assassin's Creed 4, which is not anywhere near. I mean, that's a knockout of a game, and this is just not that. It is a sort of, I'd say, a 6 out of 10 game by and large. But it's still good. I'd still recommend it. I'd still say if you're a fan, it's not going to, it's not going to completely insult you. And like you said, it doesn't insult the memory of the other games. But at this time of year, with the competition, I don't even think about it.
The worst thing that I did with Arkham Origins, I was genuinely really enjoying it, and I thought as much as certain areas I didn't feel like it was as good as my memory of Arkham City. I was really enjoying it, and I thought I'd stick on Arkham City because the thing I was going around the actual city in Origins, and I was thinking, this is fucking bland, man. I'm sure it wasn't like this in Arkham City, and I stuck it on, and within minutes I was like, oh shit, I don't think I'm ever going to see Origins in the same way again now, because even though the resolution's tons lower on the 360 version I've got of Arkham City, the frame rate's lower, like to look at to a layman, it's a worse looking game because it's not as. The resolution's not as nice, the lighting's not as nice, whatever. But just like the artistry in every single inch of that game is incredible. The way that they've structured the city in terms of the layout, and you can just look at it, and there's so many different things. Oh, what's that? That looks amazing. That looks interesting. What's that? You go down to the ground, and like every inch is just. You go down to the ground in this, and it's just like it's just a road. There's nothing here. There's nothing to look at. I don't need to look around the corner. No, it's not awful in Origins. It's just not that. And one of the best things about Asylum and City, the Rocksteady games, is that they treat the environment as much a part of the story as the actual story itself. The fact that in Asylum everything was twisted into like the Joker's personality almost, and then in City, the major players had their own area of the city, and the city was sort of almost as if nature was taking it over, and it was kind of being twisted into the psyche of that particular villain. This doesn't have any of that. There are parts where, this is a bit jokery, and I must say the Christmas stuff's crap. It's like just a couple of lights here and a tree there, that feels like an afterthought. I thought that was going to be really cool. But again, I think 6 out of 10, if I was going to put a score on it, would be what I'd be leaning to as well, maybe 7. But yeah, I don't know, it's tough. It's one of those ones where I'm glad I'm talking about it and not putting a number on it, because hopefully I've been able to convey my thoughts reasonably well.
Yeah.
In that respect, did you try multiplayer at all?
I did. I played it for over an hour.
Did you?
It's quite an interesting idea. On the problem on 360. Trying to get a game is almost impossible. I mean, if you sit in a lobby for 20 minutes,
really?
25 minutes a time, I mean, you just sit there on your own, and then one person will join, and then 2 people will join, and then one of them will leave. I mean, it's like only 10 people have the game. I know that's not true. And when a mate of mine suggested that perhaps people just weren't playing it because they were busy playing the campaign, but I was like, but no, this is not a wide, a worldwide release lobby going on. So something's wrong with the matchmaking in 360. But when I got into a game, I played as the heroes and as the Joker henchman. I was like, there's only one gameplay mode, Invisible Predator, but which makes me think that all of the downloadable content, if you bought a season pass, is going to be multiplayer related. It's quite a neat idea. There was no need for it, but I enjoyed the games that I played. Have you tried it?
I tried one game. On the PC, for some reason, you load it as a separate client. You choose like single player or multiplayer as you're loading it at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it's probably easier to find a game because it has like a kind of server browser thing, standard PC stuff. So I could see that there were people in one game. And yeah, I jumped in and it was quite fun. I didn't really know what was going on. I I think on the Joker's team, shot a couple of guys, got killed by Batman a couple of times, and then at one point went and knocked on a door, and then I was Bane, and I've no fucking idea why, but then I just killed everybody and we won. So I was like, oh, that was good. I'll never play it again because I don't think I'll ever enjoy it as much as I did just then. So, yeah, it's pointless, but it wasn't awful, certainly.
Yeah, they've made a little bit. I mean, I'm sure they were under pressure to create a multiplayer, but there was no need for this.
No, I'd be interested if the next Rocksteady one has a multiplayer. If that's.
Are they doing another Batman game?
They're doing. Oh, certainly. Yeah, they do. Well, they're doing another game. There's rumours that it's going to be the Justice League, and Kevin Conroy, the Batman voice actor who voiced him in Arkham Origins. Sorry. That's confusing. In Arkham Asylum and Arkham City in the Rocksteady games, and didn't voice him in Origins, has let slip at like Comic-Con last year or something that he was working on the next Arkham game, which wasn't Arkham Origins. So there's something going on there, definitely.
Is he? It sounds like the same actor.
It's not.
Okay. Fuck. That's completely bizarre.
Talking of which, I thought Troy Baker is probably going to win some award this year for acting for the ridiculous performances throughout games this year. Does a good Mark Hamill impression. It's a shame that it's not a bit more original, but fuck it, I do love the Joker, man. One of the best characters ever in anything. Just brilliant. I love the Joker.
There are some good I mean, there are some good, when there is that sort of midsection sort of flashback, I don't know what you call it, the sort of Joker-centric section, I guess. That's really cool. The cutscene especially, really cool.
Yeah.
So there are good things in it. It's just, I mean, another thing, I was alarmed by how frequently you've got no choice but to tackle fights head on.
Yeah.
The amount of times you open a door or you walk into an area, I'm like, what, I'm just supposed to walk in and start beating people up.
This doesn't feel like Batman. There's just a bit where like this guy's facing away at a door or a grate or something like that, and you're like, pretty sure Batman might look for a different option than just walking in this room that might have a bunch of guys with guns in. But no. And that's what it felt like. This is the fighty bit. This is the invisible predator bit. This is the Batclaw bit. But again, I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll do this in the meantime while I wait for Rocksteady's game.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's a 6 out of 10 game. It's entertaining. I'd recommend it at any other time of year. At the moment, there's just too much else that's great. One tiny detail: you use your little thingy. What do you call it? Way too much.
The password machine.
Yeah, non-stop.
Yeah.
I was
tedious.
Yeah, I was like, really? He's got other tools, There are other ways you could make us do this, but instead walking up to every door, twisting the thumbsticks there. So there's loads of problems with it, but the formula's so good, and it's not awful. It's just it should have been so much better, and it does suffer in comparison to the other two.
Yeah, one thing I kept thinking as I was playing, because I love the premise of this story. How good would this have been if Rocksteady had made it? That's what I kept thinking. Because like Christmas Eve, all these people, I can imagine like one of the bosses would be emergent in the world or something. They'd nail it. They would make it amazing, and that feels like a bit of a missed opportunity to me. But what can you do? It's all right. It's all right. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'll stand by that.